Dear Leonard, to look life in the face. Always to look life in the face and to know it for what it is. At last to know it, to love it for what it is, and then, to put it away. But there are still the hours, aren't there? One and then another, and you get through that one and then, my God, there's another. A writer should always feel like he's in over his head. I don't think two people could have been happier than we have been. Venture too far for love, she tells herself, and you renounce citizenship in the country you've made for yourself. What she wants to say has to do not only with joy but with the penetrating, constant fear that is joy's other half. Take me with you. I want a doomed love. I want streets at night, wind and rain, no one wondering where I am. I was not ladylike, nor was I manly. I was something else altogether. There were so many different ways to be beautiful. Virginia Woolf's great novel, Mrs. Dalloway, is the first great book I ever read. I read it almost by accident when I was in high school, when I was 15 years old. The secret of flight is this: you have to do it immediately, before your body realizes it is defying the laws. There is a beauty in the world, though it's harsher than we expect it to be. That is what we do. That is what people do. They stay alive for each other. Insomniacs know better than anyone how it would be to haunt a house. I think writing is, by definition, an optimistic act. Silly humans, banging on a tub to make a bear dance when we would move the stars to pity. What a thrill, what a shock, to be alive on a morning in June, prosperous, almost scandalously privileged, with a simple errand to run. All over China, parents tell their children to stop complaining and to finish their quadratic equations and trigonometric functions. Because there are 65 million American kids going to bed with no math at all. She is, above all else, tired. She wants more than anything to return to her bed and her book. The world, this world, feels suddenly stunned and stunted, far from everything. A certain slightly cruel disregard for the feelings of living people is simply part of the package. I think a writer, if he's any good, is not an entirely benign entity in the world. She thinks how much more space a being occupies in life than it does in death. How much illusion of size is contained in gestures and movements, in breathing. Dead, we are revealed in our true dimensions, and they are surprisingly modest. Here is the world, and you live in it, and are grateful. You try to be grateful. There's just this for consolation. An hour here or there when our lives seem, against all odds and expectations, to burst open and give us everything we've ever imagined. She could have had a life as potent and dangerous as literature itself. Dead, we are revealed in our true dimensions, and they are surprisingly modest. We always worry about the wrong things, don't we? Youth is the only sexy tragedy. It's James Dean jumping into his Porsche Spider, it's Marilyn heading off to bed. Please, God, send me something to adore. These days, Clarissa believes, you measure people first by their kindness and their capacity for devotion. You get tired, sometimes, of wit and intellect, everybody's little display of genius. I am beginning to understand the true difference between youth and age. Young people have time to make plans and think of new ideas. Older people need their whole energy to keep up with what's already been set in motion. These hours will inevitably be followed by others, far darker and more difficult. Still, we cherish the city, the morning. We hope more than anything, for more. There is still that singular perfection, and it's perfect in part because it seemed, at the time, so clearly to promise more. We'd hoped for love of a different kind, love that knew and forgave our human frailty but did not miniaturize our grander ideas of ourselves. Mensen zijn dom. Op een trommel slaan om een bier aan het dansen te krijgen, terwijl we de sterren zouden willen aantroeren. Maybe there is nothing, ever, that can equal the recollection of having been young together. She is overtaken by a sensation of unbeing. There is no other word for it. A stray fact. Insects are not drawn to candle flames, they are drawn to the light on the far side of the flame. They go into the flame and sizzle to nothingness because they're so eager to get to the light on the other side. She will remain sane and she will live as she was meant to live, richly and deeply, among others of her kind, in full possession and command of her gifts. I suspect any serious reader has a first great book, just the way anybody has a first kiss. Perhaps, in the extravagance of youth, we give away our devotions easily and all but arbitrarily, on the mistaken assumption that we'll always have more to give. Like my hero Virginia Woolf, I do lack confidence. I always find that the novel I'm finishing, even if it's turned out fairly well, is not the novel I had in my mind. I think a lot of writers must negotiate this, and if they don't admit it, they're not being honest.